Hey guys, this is Monday morning, April the 20th at about 8 o'clock, and I am completely exhausted. Luke, my son with autism, kept us up all night long. I think he finally went to bed about maybe 4:30, and we got up at about 6, and he does this a lot, and to those of you that don't really know anything about autism, just one of the things is some children with autism don't require a lot of sleep. I've heard some parents saying that um, their child can stay up for 2 weeks at a time, and Luke can stay up about 24 hours. He probably only needs about 3 hours of sleep. Um, and if he gets a nap during the day, even if it's like a 5 or 10 minute nap, even in the car, like if we go to town, we live in the country, if we go to town, which is about a 20-minute drive, which isn't really that bad. But by the time we get there and we come back, then if he's had a 5 or 10 minute nap, then we pretty much know he's going to be up all night. So it's really hard because he stays up and he plays, um, and he gets into things. He he shares a room with his brother, so we do have like a gate up to separate the room, but he climbs over the gate and he climbs on top of his brother. And then we also have a baby gate up leading out into the house from his bedroom. And he gets out of that too. And it's really scary because, um, he can turn on the stove. He knows how to open windows. He's learned how to unlock the doors. So, I mean, it's kind of like, since I'm not working, I'm the one that kind of has to stay up all night and try to make sure that he's okay, because my husband works, so he's got to get rest. My oldest son, who's 11, he needs his rest so that he can go to school. And I'm not working, and so I stay up and put him back in the room. And I get him, and he gets hungry. I mean, I guess if you were staying up for like 20 hours a day, you'd probably be hungry too. But he stays up a lot, and he's hungry at night, so it's just a constant battle, and I'm constantly physically drained. Um, and last night was just a good example of that. And when you add being overweight to that, it makes everything harder because, you know, normal people go to sleep at a decent hour and then they wake up and they stay awake during the day. But I stay up almost all night, depending on how he does at night. If he goes to sleep a decent hour, then I'll go to sleep too. But most of the time he stays up really late and we get up really early. And so the only time I have to myself is when he's at school. And that time is spent sleeping, if I can even go to sleep, because sometimes people are outside, mowing their lawns or whatever. So it's quite noisy outside. So I don't really get good and restful sleep. Um, but you know, one of my issues that I've had, um, I mean, I was overweight to begin with, but not as much as I am now in the beginning. Well, I guess probably when I was pregnant with Luke, I was overweight. I had gestational diabetes. I was put on bed rest because I'd had some breakthrough bleeding, and they were worried that I was going to lose him, and it ended up being premature in the hospital. And um, I always knew there was something wrong with him, because a mother knows in her heart when there's something different about her child. Uh, I it was very, very hard for me to get him diagnosed. The pediatrician kept telling me I was overreacting, um, that he was interactive, and I should quit thinking negative thoughts, and so I just kind of ignored it, I suppose. um, then one of my cousins got married, and we went to the wedding, and they had the DJ, with the microphone and the music going, and Luke was just screaming his head off, and he was like running for the door, and because I had been dismissed with my I can't think of the word 'cause I'm so tired, but my feelings, I guess, and my thoughts about him possibly having autism. And I just trusted the doctor that maybe he was premature, so it was just like a type of developmental delay. I just trusted her. Um, anyway, after that, that's when I really started looking into autism more closely. I found a questionnaire online. It was like 40 questions, and all of the questions was like a yes or no questionnaire, and the majority of the questions I answered yes to. Um, and they weren't like typical questions that you would, think to ask a mother of a child. So I started thinking, okay, these are probably, I'm answering yes to all of these. These are probably, you know, characteristics of children with autism. And at the end of the questionnaire, it said, if you've answered yes to more than a certain, I don't know how many percentage of um, questions here, that your child needs to be evaluated for autism. So, anyway, to make a long story short, I fought and fought with a pediatrician. Um, I got an early childhood, it's like a state program for children under 3 to come in and evaluate him, and he qualified for services obviously because he wasn't talking and interacting and things like that. So I fought with them too because they told me there was nothing wrong with him. He was just delayed. Anyway, um, my son was finally diagnosed when he was 2, which is extremely early. Excuse me. It's extremely early, and I was very grateful to have the diagnosis because everybody had been telling me that I was, crazy, thinking that and there's nothing wrong with him. I was overreacting, and you know, why would you want to think that your child has autism? And then I heard things like, well, there's no cure, and it was just so. Anyway, I started packing on the pounds at that point, and then we finally got the diagnosis. It was like, okay, we got a diagnosis. Now what? Now what do we do? Because there's not a lot of services for children under 3 that have autism, so you're kind of left to deal with it on your own. Um, so I did what I could, and we still, went with the therapy, and um, I started experiencing a lot of anxiety issues. Um, you know, there children with autism. There's different levels of the spectrum, and even 2 children with the same diagnosis are are gonna act differently. And but Luke, whenever we go out in public, it's gotten better now. But back then, he couldn't handle the noise. So if we went out in public, I mean, he would scream at the top of his lungs. You could hear him clear across the store. Um, it, it was just awful. And he would have these horrible, horrible meltdowns. And then, I've learned to ignore people now, but back then people would stare and they would point, and um, it was just embarrassing. I felt completely like out of control. I didn't understand how to deal with them, and the anxiety issues were coming up more and more. And the way I dealt with my anxiety was, take a guess, eating. So that's how I dealt with it.